Finally, Your
How you doing?
Excellency. Thank you so
How we
much
doing?
for your
I
patience.
This is the challenge with technology. I've
With
been
technology,
trying
well,
so hard to get you.
we will perfect it. First, I must thank you for accepting to be the very first guest of mine on Instagram Live. I am so honored, and may God continue to honor you.
Well,
Uh,
anything for you, Dele.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I am not very surprised because I know you are technology savvy. You are a modern governor, and that's one of the reasons why I decided that yes, let's speak to someone who would at least understand and appreciate what we're trying to do. You see, we're all locked down at home in some states, and I'm told, including yours. So we have to keep busy and make the best of this period. I won't wait too much time. I'll go straight into action. I was going to do some introduction, but I will just ask you to kindly introduce yourself to my audience out there.
Well, to your audience, my name is KAYODE FAYEMI. I serve the good people of Ekiti State as governor. I don't know if you're seeing me. My guys are trying to
Adjust, yeah, I can see you are trying to
adjust the
adjust your seat.
screen.
Yeah, if you just raise it up a bit, if you can raise up a bit, just come up a bit on your seat.
Okay, I need to
Yes,
come
you are
up.
looking at me straight. Yeah, just a bit.
Okay.
No, you have to come up a bit. Maybe move, if you are in front of a desk, maybe move closer to the desk.
Okay. I think it's good
Okay,
now.
that's better now. Yes, we can see each other
Yeah.
very well. Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. So, yes, could we have a bit about your background?
Well, I'm from Ekiti State. I'm from Ishan Ekiti. But I was born in Ibadan. I grew up in Ibadan, and then got posted to high school in Ado Ekiti, Cry School Ado Ekiti, and I left Cry School to attend Federal School of Arts and Science in Ondo for my A levels, and then I went to University of Lagos, where I took my first degree history and politics, and then left University of Lagos to go to University of Ife, where I met your good self and my friend Kunle Ajibade and a couple of us in graduate school then at the University of Ife. And from there, I did my bit in journalism and then went off to England for my doctorate studies. Worked at The Guardian and then joined a team led by Sonola Olumese to start City Temple newspaper with Maxim, Uzoatu, Chidoram Wakama, Jackson Ekugum, and a couple of Mojida Nisa, a number of top journalists in our days. I left journalism, mainstream journalism, and went back to academy. So I went to the University of London where I took a PhD in war studies, and then I got involved in Pan-African struggles in almost all our countries in Africa, with the Kenya, with the Ghanaian resistance movement at the time, and of course on our own journey back to democracy in Nigeria, where of course you escaped through the Nadeco route and joined us out there yourself, and then was very active in the movement. Asaliu Eniolorun Opa on our popular radio Kudirat, that was your name in those days. I was general coordinator of the operations, and thankfully democracy burst in '99. I returned to Nigeria, running the Center for Democracy and Development. And then I allowed myself to be convinced, stupidly, to go into politics, partisan politics. And there you have it.
Well, you've done very well. At 55, You've been a journalist. You've been a teacher globally. And you've been a minister. You've been a governor. You've seen it all. A lot of scholars usually in your shoes are afraid to go into the murky waters of politics. What would you say precisely tickled your fancy about politics?
Well, I grew up being conscious of my environment. I always describe myself as a child of the Penkelemes years. Those who are familiar with Nigerian politics and Western Nigerian politics would know that those born in the early to mid 60s were caught up in that uh, very turbulent political era. And my father was in the Western Region Civil Service as an information officer. So I basically uh, grew up reading newspapers, being conscious of my environment, and being active from get-go. In high school, I was known as Current Affairs in High School. In Federal School of Arts and Science, I was secretary of the press club. And then at the University of Lagos, I was secretary general of ANONSA. I was also secretary of the Youth in Solidarity for Southern Africa. And I used to work in the SWAPO and ANC secretariat in Kefi. So I've always been active. But the question was, what tickled me? What got me into partisan politics? I must honestly say that it was really not my intention. When I returned to Nigeria, I was running the Center for Democracy and Development, which is still there. It's still doing very well in the country. And one of the very first assignments I took up was helping to structure the Oputa panel. I was the main advisor of the Human Rights Violations Investigations Commission's panel. I worked with them, Justice Oputa, Bishop Matthew Kuka, and a number of the people involved in that. Connected them with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa and in Latin America, where they've had a series of these events. And basically advising the government. I was, during that period, I served on about 3 committees. President Obasanjo was very active in NEPAD, so there was a Nigerian NEPAD committee on which I served. There was also the Millennium Development Goal Committee at the time I served. And then the president was trying to put together a grand strategy, a new defense national security policy. So I worked with his team to develop that. But in my own part of the country, I've always been active. I was involved in Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu's think tank and his preparation to office in '99. I was also involved in my own state when Otumani Adebayo was governor, basically on a purely advisory basis. And I was responsible for bringing in the DFID into Ekiti at the time. And the truth of the matter was I was invited. I didn't go into partisan politics because I had an ambition to run. I was asked to come and run for office by Governor Ni Adebayo at the time because he wasn't running again and he felt I could really help our state. And it was actively supported by Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, of course, I worked with, as you yourself know, when we were in exile, and I'd gotten quite close to and familiar with. So he too supported that. And stupidly, I allowed them to convince me, but it's turned out well. I'm here. I've learned a few lessons and developed a lot of gray hair in the process.
Well, as Shakespeare would put it, all is well that ends well. But was there any time you regretted going into politics?
No. For me, politics was really an extension of my activism background. Everything that I was fighting for in my civil society days, in my days as an activist in the opposition movement, there were also the things that took me into politics. I wanted a state that could live up to the Committee of States very well. Don't forget, when I was coming in, our state was going through a turbulent period. We had an impeached governor, and then we had an election, and that election was inconclusive, controversially given to my opponent, and I was in court for 3.5 years. So, but I had an agenda that was very attractive to Ekiti people at the time, which we called a collective rescue mission. And it was a social democratic agenda, essentially, to really bring out the best in our people and make poverty history in our state. That was what drove me. These were the things that I also fought for in exile, and for as long as I can remember my involvement in political movements.
Okay, we have loads of questions waiting here, but we'll try to take just a few. The first one is about Chief Obafemi Awolowo. You like to wear the Awolowo cap a lot, and people are asking that in the time of Awolowo had cardinal programs that were priority projects. What would you say are your own priority projects?
Could you repeat that? Because the line froze. I didn't hear your...
Okay. Chief Awolowo in UPN, they had what they call the cardinal programs. So what would you say are your cardinal programs?
Oh, my cardinal programs. Well, really, yes. The cardinal programs that I have are not, frankly, very different from what Chief Awolowo did in its time. Of course, modernization has informed a little tweaking here and there, but we have what we call the 5-pillar agenda in Ekiti now, which revolve around agriculture and rural development, the knowledge economy, infrastructure and industrial development, and social investment, which basically focuses on helping the poor and the vulnerable and improving on the educational standards and health infrastructure in our state, and investment.
A lot of people have heard about security, that there is so much insecurity in Nigeria, and that the Southwest has suffered a lot. Hello? Hello? I can see it freezing again. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you now.
Hello? Okay. I said a lot of people are worried. Yes, a lot of people are worried about insecurity in Nigeria. And a lot of people in the Southwest felt that with the loud announcement of Amatekun, all our security problems will be over. Ooh. Hello? Wow. Hello? Hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. A lot of people are worried about security. If you can hear that, maybe you can respond. A lot of people feel that what is happening to Amatekun, they want to know.
Well, really, people should be worried about security. Security is the first business of government. If you look at Section 14, subsection 2 of our Constitution, the 99 Constitution, it speaks explicitly that the security and welfare of the citizens is the first responsibility of any governor or government. And it's understandable. And we're not just talking about physical security. Security has a comprehensive dimension. In those days, it used to be about regime security, the security of those who are running the state. But now we talk much more of human security, which encompasses food security, environmental security, security of the individual. What makes the individual comfortable? Freedom from fear, freedom from want, and removing poverty from society. So when we talk about it, it's a comprehensive framework. Amotekun responds to the clear and present danger in our society.
Right.
That was what informed the establishment of Amotekun. And Amotekun is alive and well. COVID-19 had gotten in the way a little bit, but Amotekun has not gone anywhere. We're still, all the states have signed up on the laws. The training was about to start. We are at the recruitment phase of Amotekun Corps. And then following from recruitment, we'll get into training. And from training, then we get to deployment. And they'll be deployed primarily in their own local government areas where they've been recruited. So our people should not entertain any fear. We are very committed to the Amotekun agenda, which for us is simply put a community policing agenda in Western Nigeria. And it's essentially something that many of our colleagues are also looking up to as a model that they can follow and replicate in their own parts of the country.
Thank you. The next one is on the issue of tourism. A bank, a major bank in Nigeria, got in touch with me this afternoon, and they are wondering if tourism remains your priority in Ekiti State, and that they are willing to even partner with your state.
Absolutely. Tourism is still big on our agenda in Ekiti State, and we're doing quite a bit about that. You would recall in my first term, we concentrated on revamping the Kogosi Warm Spring, and it became a destination for many of our people. Many Nollywood films were organized out of the place when I was governor after we fixed it. But things went pear-shaped when I left office. And what that has brought clearly to us is that government really shouldn't be in the driver's seat when it comes to managing the entertainment industry or managing even the leisure facilities. So we, this time around, decided that we were going to put it up out there for people who are desirous of running it professionally and running it as a business, not as a government entity. And we are in the process of making that happen. That's on the revival of our tourism destination that is known to everybody. I have an excellent person in charge of tourism. Professor Ojo Bakare is very well known in the industry. He was in charge of the Abuja Carnival for a long time. He's a professor of dance and theater, and is actively developing the sector with dynamic individuals like Wale Ojolanre and many other people on the team. But one of the things we're also doing, in addition to security, because if you don't secure an environment, the place cannot be a destination of choice. We are also revamping the infrastructure of our state, including bringing into fore an airport, because Ekiti is landlocked, as many people know, and there is a challenge getting to the state. In order to access Ekiti, you have to access Ondo State. And the road from Ondo to Ekiti, a federal road, has been a challenge that we've been fighting over for the last 1 year that I've been in office here. And we've attracted some investment for that. The AFDB has agreed to help us with that road, but the federal government had difficulty releasing the road to the governor of Ondo State and I. So we've now transferred the money coming from AFDB to the federal coffers to manage. As long as the road is done, that is what we're interested in, not who eventually has done the road. But those are the challenges of federalism in our environment. So we're doing that. We are also developing a ring road around our major city, the capital, Ado-Ekiti, in addition to making our state very attractive to investors in the entertainment industry. We've just finished a major civic center with a 1,500-seater amphitheater, 2 film houses, several places for art gallery, for museum, the kind of things that you would expect a standard capital city to have. Those are things that we didn't have in the past, but we're bringing them to fruition now in the state.
A lot of people are worried about the economy, that Nigeria may be heading for a disaster, especially with the plunge in oil price recently. As a former minister of solid minerals, why has it been impossible for Nigeria to diversify from oil?
Well, let me answer that question you've asked in 2 parts. Yes, a lot of people are worried about the economy, and they should be worried. But you know, when you talk about crisis, the dimension of crisis that people hardly talk about is the opportunity side of crisis. And there's an opportunity in our current adversity. I believe that this is the time for us to reduce the influence of oil and gas in our economy. And for us in Ekiti, we have decided, not that we have oil here anyway, but we've decided consciously that our focus is going to be our agriculture endowments and our education endowments. And I believe this is the only way out for us as a country. We need to develop a knowledge economy, and we need to develop an agrarian productive capacity. Those are 2 things we're focusing on in Ekiti. You mentioned solid minerals. Solid minerals would only thrive in an environment of certainty. The laws guiding the industry must be certain, must be consistent, must be also in line with what obtains in the global space. 2, it must be a law that allows for genuine partnership between different layers of government. In our country, solid minerals is on the exclusive list of our constitution, meaning it belongs to the federal government. So whatever mineral you have in your state or in your zone or in your community belongs to the government of Nigeria. That same constitution, however, says that land belongs to the state. Yet you cannot access the mineral without getting to the land. So you have to figure out a partnership that works between the owners of the land and the owners of the minerals, which is the federal government. In other climes, the owner of the land is also the owner of the mineral. If you go to a place like Canada, or you go to a place like even the United States of America, what you just do is you develop it, you expropriate it, and you pay taxes to the government. But in our own case, that's not what the case is. But pending the time that we're able to get a constitutional change that would allow that to happen, we need to focus our energy on really figuring out, one, what exactly do we have as a country? That's what I did when I was in the ministry. We started a major exploration project to determine what is where, in what quantity, is it commercially viable, and how do we expropriate it? Those are the specifics, because we just talk glibly in Nigeria. Everybody will tell you that, oh, we have minerals. But when you then get to the next question, which any investor will ask you, what is the quantity of the mineral you have? How commercially viable it is? What are the geological imperatives that you can show us as evidence of this quantity and quality of your mineral? We have not successfully marketed that enough because we don't always have that information in up-to-date format. Now we have that. The Honorable Minister there now is continuing the same Nigerian Minerals Exploration Project, NIMEP, that we started when we were there. The second thing that we did when I was in office was to try and pull together artisanal miners, because our mining is dominated by artisans, not by major players. And they're easily exploited because all sorts of foreigners come, collect the whatever they've managed to find, and then pay them peanuts. And I think government has a duty to protect those who are in this trade on a small scale. So we introduced in the ministry a small scale license, and then we to that for biomedical technological advancement. So there is a hospital, and for the benefit of those who are listening, it is of international standard. You will think you are in Cromwell Hospital, that you know very well, or Wellington Hospital in London, or some of the best hospitals in other parts of the world, if you come to Afebabala University Hospital. But that's not your only question. Your second question is the reality that has confronted us in light of the COVID-19 experience, and how we're managing that with people locked down at home and cash being distributed. Well, it's not the best. From what I heard from the minister, they are now piloting the process of electronic money, and in about 4 states. But in my state, when they came last week, it was still cash that was distributed. I think that's not good enough. We need to improve on our data collection and data management. And I believe with the number of people who now have BVN accounts, it should be possible to do that. But don't forget, the people who are focused on now, they're the poorest of the poor. Many of them are unbanked. They don't have bank accounts. So you have to look for other creative means of paying them, maybe via POS or via some other electronic means, even with the fact that they don't have bank accounts, because paying cash makes for a challenging accountability. And I think it's not something that many people would like to see happen. We've been supporting the vulnerable here since my first term. We have a social security benefit scheme that we've had in the state and that we're continuing now. Now we pay them via the banks. In my first time, we were paying cash, but now we pay it with an arrangement with the bank, and they get the money to the beneficiaries.
Now, people are saying, yes, there is the Afebabalola Hospital and all that, but how many people in Ekiti State can afford to go to the hospital? I mean, I'm just reading out what people are sending to me. People are complaining that the American-style democracy we practice is too expensive, and that politicians have become liabilities on Nigeria and Nigerians. And so what do you say to that? Because people are saying, for example, you have the Senate, you have the House of Reps. By the time you buy cars for everybody, you pay them constituency allowances, you pay this and that. That Nigeria cannot afford this democracy. That Nigeria cannot afford this expensive and outlandish style.
Bobby, I've already. Yes, I got the question. I got it. The truth of the matter is, I don't know any country where the citizens don't see their politicians as a liability. It's all over. But there is some truth to the position that people have, that the cost of governance in our country is too expensive. And I share that view. I think we've got to do something about reducing the size of government. I have gone on record in the past to say that we need, frankly, just a unicameral legislature. I said that before. I got into trouble for saying it, but it's still my view that what we really require is a unicameral legislature. And I also believe that we can run government effectively with fewer people than we currently have. So the truth of the matter is that this is also a social security scheme. It's not just if you are to do a human resource audit. It's like the civil service. Technology has made things easy now. You can do a lot more with fewer people, for example, in our public service. But because of the nature of the public service as also a service that takes care of people, it is not something that you can easily suggest to the population, because our duty is to make life better for our people. So instead of sacking people, you want to keep people in their jobs and look for a way in which they can be of better use to society. But I think charity begins at home, and the fish rots from the head. So politicians should take the heat. We should be the first to reduce the cost of governance as it affects us. And from that basis, translate it to other aspects of society. Because if we don't do that, it's very difficult to convince other people in the labor market that everything must be defined by efficiency and productivity.
Do you agree? And I think this will probably be our, we're getting to the end of it now. We have exactly 1 hour. Unless, if you have more time, we can start all over, no problem. People are saying that there is too much bureaucracy in government, and that this is the reason why a lot of things cannot be done quickly. I mean, it's ridiculous that for 5 years we have not been able to finish Lagos-Ibadan Express. What is so difficult about just starting one straight road, less than 150 kilometers, Lagos to Ibadan? I don't know how you respond to that, but a lot of people are complaining that there is sluggishness in
I
government.
just told you, Dele, I just told you about my experience. The one that concerns me next door to me, Ado-Akure Road. That is what bureaucracy does to us. Because frankly, I honestly find it difficult to understand what a federal road is. And the bulk of the people in my state and in Ondo State, they also don't understand it. They just want their governors to do the road. And they don't know it's not as simple as that. Because if we go and do a road that does not belong to us, and I borrow money to do the road, Ekiti people would ask me questions when I want to pay back that loan without getting a refund from the person who claims to own the road. That's part of our bureaucracy. And those are the kind of things we need to do away with. Because we've been on this back and forth with the Federal Ministry of Works. Even at a time that the person who is there, I have the greatest respect for him, is my friend. But it's not about him. It's about the laid down procedures and the approvals he needs to get if he's going to concede a federal road to us to go and fix. And I believe that's also partly what is happening on the Lagos-Ibadan road or the Abuja-Kaduna Kano road, which was why they took these two roads away and put it in the Sovereign Investment Authority to fix.
Your Excellency, before we are cut off, what do we do with our own presidential orders in Nigeria, if you may explain to my viewers? Because I presume that in situations, critical situations such as this, I think we will require a presidential order.
Well, we do have we have executive orders, and you've seen the use of executive order recently. Mr. President did not have to go to Parliament in order to lock down the country. He used the Quarantine Act.
So can't we do the same for critical infrastructure like power, like roads and things like that?
We can, but your parliament will not appropriate money for it. They want to be the one responsible for, and that's their constitutional role. They have been empowered to appropriate money and also be responsible for oversight. And this is part of what has called, and we're not a dictatorship. There is a basis for that bureaucracy. It's just that there are a lot of things we can cut through the chase and get things done. I think we're moving to the point where Nigerians are becoming impatient with this bureaucracy, and we have to do something about it.
Your Excellency, let me thank you for a very, very wonderful time. I believe at some point we may have to invite you because, I mean, my phones, you can't believe it, my phones are all going gaga. But I must thank you for your time. I know how busy you are, and at such short notice, I must tell you that you have not disappointed me. I'm reading a lot of the comments, and trust me, virtually 99% of the comments are very positive. You've answered the questions fair and square, and I can only wish you well. And my regards to your family, especially my sister. You know, I'll be biased about my sister, Erelu DC.
Oh.
Well,
thank you, Bondi. You have been a fighter for this democracy, and you're still fighting. I was reading last Saturday about your 2011 experience, and I was reeling on the floor, laughing myself off as you describe what you went through. There are several books that you have to write about that. Many of us have books we must write in future about our experience in politics and in deepening this democracy. So I really thank you for the opportunity. I would be happy to return sometime in future. We owe our people a duty to explain, communicate, and communicate with them about what is happening in our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. So, viewers, you've been listening to our governor from Ekiti State. I call him the governor of governors, and I hope you had fun with us. Later tonight, we'll be announcing our next guest. We're going global. We're not just to be speaking. We're not going to be speaking just to Nigerians. We speak to leaders from all over the world, and I think.